Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Buffalo
Giants.
Podcast. All right, well, how was your day today, Brian? Pretty good?
Yeah, it was busy. We're getting ready for an ice storm here in Charlotte. I know you guys are probably going to get some inclement weather yourself. Hope
Yep.
everyone that's listening out there, if you're in the way of this thing, whether you're really from Houston all the way up through Boston or even potentially more north of that. We hope you guys stay safe and warm. And hopefully we can catch some football this weekend.
Yeah, these Carolina boys are going to be cold. It'll be interesting to see. Oh, Carolina boys, that's really weird to say. It's been less than a month, but still very weird to say. But, Brian, I have the ultimate quarterback extravaganza, keep four, cut four that you will ever see. And
Okay,
I'm even going to make it easy on you at the beginning.
let's do it.
So, your first player is Thomas Edward Brady.
That's a keep for me. That's the goat. You know,
Yep.
Super Bowl speak for himself. Michigan connection. Don't need to say much more.
Yeah. Your next one is Patrick. I don't know Patrick's middle name. Mahomes.
I'm gonna keep Patrick Mahomes. He is trending towards Tom Brady in terms of what he might be able to accomplish over his career. He certainly proved me wrong at points early on in his career. And so long as he's healthy, he seems to always be able to will the Chiefs at least to the AFC Championship game, if not the Super Bowl. And a lot of times they find a way to get that done. So I'm going to keep Patrick Mahomes.
Well, if he does continue on the Brady experience, he's not going to taste the Super Bowl for 8 more years. So that'll be fun. Your next one is going to be Peyton, the Sheriff Manning. I don't know his real middle name either.
He's a cut. He's a cut for me. Frankly, I would take Eli over him if given the chance. We're talking about one of the best regular season quarterbacks of all time, and I say that specifically. He struggled in the playoffs, particularly with the Colts. But even when he got to the Broncos and had a very, very good team, he still lost the Seahawks in his first try there. In the Super Bowl. So, I just can't simply take him given the lack of playoff success there.
All right. So far, you kept Tom and Patrick and cut Peyton. Your next quarterback is going to be Joe Montana. Joe Cool Joe.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep Joe. He was the standard bearer before Brady. You know,
Yep.
a part of the dynasties with the 49ers there. Obviously had some great talent around him, Jerry Rice, stuff like that. So certainly benefits from having good players around him and everything like that. But he certainly did make magic. He's probably the reason that the Giants don't have a couple more Super Bowls during LT's career. They ran up
Yep.
against them and lost twice to them, ultimately beating them the third time around and winning a Super Bowl over the Bills that season. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and keep Joe Montana.
All right. Probably the next quarterback is the second best quarterback to never win a Super Bowl ring. You got Dan Marino.
Yeah, so the way that this list is going, there's too many Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, potentially Super Bowl MVP winning quarterbacks. Again, we're talking about one of the best quarterbacks, particularly in terms of the regular season. He's got that unblemished record. So really, really good player, but so is everyone else on this list. And so I gotta, split hair somewhere. And that playoff success, that lack of a Super Bowl, it's screaming.
The next one is one bad, bad man, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. He's number 7 on the list. Is that correct?
He is number 6.
He's number 6. Okay. And I've got what 3 keeps, 2 cuts at this point.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is tough because I have to think that you're going to say at least one better quarterback, or one that I would like more. I don't have the affinity for the Packers or anything like that with Aaron Rodgers. You know, I will say I do like him more than Brett Favre, if that's going to be one of the two read off here, which it certainly could be. Um, I'm going to cut Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to cut him based on the fact that I think he's diluted his legacy a little bit by trying to play these last couple of seasons. That run may not be over, and so I think that he's going to kind of play so long and so much after his prime that he's going to end up looking like a more average quarterback than someone who has won as many Super Bowls as he has.
All right, your next player is John Edward Elway.
Yeah, certainly would have taken Rodgers over Elway. So I'm going to cut Elway. We beat him. Now that I say that, it may have been the Broncos that we beat when we won that Super Bowl after beating the 49ers in their dynasty. I want to say that that's right. Or that's the 80s Super Bowl win. So, yeah.
90s was the
But that was an Elway Broncos team, and we were able to beat them. So,
I don't know who the quarterback was then. It wasn't Elway.
I'm sorry?
It wasn't Elway in the 80s, that's for sure. Because Elway retired in 2001.
Okay. I'll double check that. I'll come prepared with that next episode. Because I am 90% sure that Elway was the quarterback of that team, but we won't litigate that here. I'm gonna cut John Elway.
You, sir, have messed up.
Who am I keeping?
Your last quarterback, you're keeping Steve Young.
It's not the worst pick in the world. Certainly I would have taken Aaron Rodgers over him. But I'm not terribly upset with that. I probably have the 3 guys that I would want the most. Out of the guys that you read off. So, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, and honestly, I just took this off Google, and this is who they said the best 8 quarterbacks are ever.
In this order,
I would take Drew Brees over Steve. Yep, I would take Drew Brees over Steve Young personally, but who am I?
Yeah, I mean,
but
there's a number of guys that you could, I think, slide in there as well. I think that's a pretty subjective list. There are many quarterbacks. I feel like
the first 4 are definitely right, though.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a gap there. Once you get through them and you get to the guys who, maybe didn't win Super Bowls, that for me, Rodgers should be ahead of the guys that don't have Super Bowls. But that's
he should be ahead of Marino, but I still think Elway's better. Like if you put his play style that Elway played back then, Elway would probably have 6 Super Bowl rings.
I mean, he could be gotten against the better defenses, so I don't necessarily know if that's as much of a home run as we might think that it would be. Obviously we see how quarterback driven the league is, and so obviously I think that fuels a lot of that take. But I do think you could get at him. Certainly the Giants were able to do that when they played the Broncos. Granted, we were built on defense. Um,
Yeah.
and I imagine teams like the current Denver Broncos defense, the Texans defense, potentially even the Patriots right now, the way they've been playing these first couple of rounds, could probably get at him. You don't think the Seahawks defense would give him fits? I certainly think that they would.
Oh yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, and his game would also evolve too. He would have a 2025, outlook of things. Things would be way different. He would have learned way different things. I'm just saying his skill set it projects better now than it did back then.
I think that's
He was
fair.
a runner.
The injury risk also is much higher now.
I mean, is it? You could kill people on the field back in his day.
Yeah, but I just think in terms of like how like the injuries that guys sustain nowadays, they're of the season-ending
Oh,
variety quite often, right? So
yeah,
you
yeah.
just get robbed of more of your career. I feel like when you're a running quarterback in today's NFL.
True. But we'll take a quick break, and then we will get into Quarterback Mountain featuring. I'm setting
Cam
this up for you.
Ward.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. We'll see you in 2 minutes, guys. All right. So we're doing Cam Ward this week, so we'll see where he is. Obviously, I'll give you the ones that are questionable. The other ones will probably just I'll quickly say and just give me a no, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right, but we're gonna start. We're gonna start the AFC side of things. So we will start with Brady Cook.
Yes.
Yes, Cam Ward.
Give me Cam Ward. Yes.
Okay. Geno Smith.
I'll take Cam Ward.
Shador / Dylan Gabriel.
Give me Cam Ward.
Okay. Quinn Ewers.
Give me Cam Ward.
Aaron Rodgers.
Potentially not even a starting quarterback next season. I'm gonna go Cam Ward.
Fair enough. All right. So I've reached the point where no, it's very, very questionable. Oh, actually, it's not true. I got 2 left. C.J. Stroud.
I'm gonna take C.J. Stroud right now.
Daniel Jones.
I don't even think that's questionable. It's Daniel Jones the way that he played this season.
All right. Well, I'm going to say Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, and Drake May, and Bo Nix.
All clear.
I figured. All right. Let's move over to the NFC. We have Kyler Murray.
Also potentially not even a starting quarterback next season. I'm going to go Cam Ward there.
Okay.
Now,
Michael
does
Penix.
that also include Jacoby Brissett? Are you talking about the Cardinals?
Yeah. I mean, he's still a Cardinal, so yeah, we'll say Jacoby.
I'm going to go Jacoby Brissett.
Okay. But you'll clear him over Kyler Murray?
Yes.
All right, cool. Tyler Schlag.
Yeah.
Shuck. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna go Tyler Shuck, man. I think he played better in the time that he played this season than Cam Ward did. Now, a lot of that is the weapons around these guys as well. I certainly think Cam Ward is more talented than Tyler Shuck is. But if we're going based on what we've seen with our eyes, I only really saw a handful of games, maybe even just a few games from Cam Ward. A lot of that with the competition kind of playing down, getting the Chiefs in that stretch, for example. So I'm going to take Tyler Shuck there.
All right. Penix.
I'm going to say Cam Ward.
McCarthy.
Give me Cam Ward right now.
Okay. I think we're done. I'm going to read off a long list of names. Sam, Brock, Bryce, Baker, Jordan, Jared, Caleb, Jaden, Jalen, Dart, Dak.
I certainly want to have a conversation there about Jared Goff.
Oh my God. You hate him so much.
I mean, why should I bother respecting him at this point?
Fair enough. All right. So you're taking Cam Ward over Jared.
Did you see anything that said, "Hey, I'm better than the number one pick in the last draft from Jared Goff this season"?
History-wise, yes, but this season, yeah, it was bad at the end. Yeah, I'll give it to you. All right, let me count these up. In the meantime, we're going to put Kyler at 33 because he is a former starting quarterback from this season. But
I think we have a conversation about that too. I think Mac Jones probably deserves that 33 spot.
Yeah, we'll probably give that to Mac Jones. Don't get me wrong; he might even be higher. There's some people I like more than him. I like him more than 9. All right, currently Cam Ward is the 23rd ranked quarterback.
Okay, I think that's a pretty good start after your rookie season.
Yeah, it'll be. Where did we? We didn't do Dart yet, right? No Dart.
We haven't done Dart yet. No.
All right. Well, this will probably be rookie week. This coming week, we'll do the 3 rookie quarterbacks that played. So we'll do Dart, and then we'll do Shuck, or vice versa. The order doesn't matter. But yeah, 23rd for our friend Cam Ward, and many more that he could pass in this upcoming season coming up. So good for Cam. A lot better position than he thought he would be in. And, we're counting a few backups at this point now as well. So good for him.
Yeah.
But we will take a quick intermission, and we will get into the 2 playoff games and then close the show out with our awards and just brief news that we have to talk about with coaching. All right. Well, we'll get into the Broncos and Patriots game. I'll let you start, Brian, since you're the away team for this game.
Yeah, so I've got the Patriots in this one. I'm picking the Patriots in this game 16-9. I think it's just going to be a very, very defensive game. Obviously with Stidham starting for the Broncos, I think that will put a cap on how many points the Broncos can score on their end and how explosive they will be. I think the Patriots are going to be able to stop the run. My X factor in this one for the Patriots is going to be Christian Ellis. I think they have the speed in Christian Ellis to be able to match R.J. Harvey, especially if they try and go more simulated runs through screens and things of that nature. I think the Patriots are particularly equipped to be able to handle that with Christian Ellis there at linebacker. And then over on the offensive side of the ball is my X factor. I got Ramondre Stevenson, and it's because he's been quite good over these last few weeks. They've been managing Travion Henderson with a shoulder injury. But he did start to show the fumbleitis again last week. And I certainly think with a defense as tough as the Broncos, and the Broncos, what their one bugaboo is really not forcing all that many turnovers. This season, they changed that in a major way against the Bills in the past round. So I look for Ramondre Stevenson to get the similar amount of work, but maybe that the turnovers to start to show again. Over on the heroes of the game side, on the Patriots, I've got Travion Henderson. I think he comes back strong. He's been practicing in full as of today, so I think that he's going to resume his normal role in the offense and potentially have a really big role, particularly with the threat of explosive plays against this Broncos team. They have at times shown that you can run on them, and he has an ability to catch passes as well. So I think that versatility may give the Broncos some fits at times in this game. And then over on the villain side, I've got Drake May. He's kind of been underwhelming to say the least. These first two playoff games, they've really won in spite of his quarterback performances. I would even go as far as to say in those first two rounds, the Texans kind of did them so much of a favor by not scoring any points or moving the ball at all and turning the ball over constantly that he was eventually able to break through in that game. But I think that he's been very underwhelming. I think he's looked very human against some of these better defenses. And it's very, very possible that the Broncos end up being the best of the bunch. In addition to that, this game is in Denver. I think that the Mile High effect may have a role on this Patriots team, and that may show up in Drake May's stat line. So I've got him as the villain of the game, and I have them winning yet again in spite of him. But just a couple notes on the Patriots that I think are worth mentioning injury-wise. Harold Landry III, linebacker, really an edge rusher for them. He's going to be out in this one with a knee injury. Did not practice all week and was declared out today. So that's a big one. He's a big part of their defense, a big part of that pass rush in particular. So look for that to potentially play a difference. Give Stidham potentially a little bit more time to get the ball out to his playmakers. Really, that is the only bad news, I would say, though, for the Patriots. You have Joshua Farmer, who could potentially come off IR. He practices in full. Matt Collins also on IR, but also practices in full. Could potentially be two very big players for them. Joshua Farmer being a defensive tackle, Matt Collins, pretty well-known journeyman wide receiver at this point. They'll even be getting some more running back depth with Terrell Jennings passing concussion protocol for the first time in weeks. He's also on IR but could come back, practice fully on Friday. Marte Mapu, he's probably the one questionable player that might actually get declared out. He is a linebacker with hip injury and was limited on Friday. So keep an eye out for that one. And then the good news, there's a lot of green grass for the Patriots in terms of what their injury report looked like. Turns out a handful of guys were just getting rested. Some of those guys include, Robert Spillane, Morgan Moses, Hunter Henry. All of those guys will be in. Christian Ellis, as I mentioned in the X Factor portion, will be in. Carlton Davis was cleared off concussion protocol, practicing full on Friday, will be in. Garrett Bradbury, their center, was sick on Thursday, but he practiced in full on Friday. As I mentioned, Travion Henderson practiced in full with that shoulder injury. And then Thayer Munford Jr., a tackle for them, also practiced in full on Friday, was questionable with a knee injury. So looking really, really good in terms of the Patriots and where they stand from a health standpoint outside of Harold Landry, who is a significant contributor on the defense. I just think that the Patriots have too much offensively. For the Broncos in this game, I think the Broncos will miss Bo Nix. I certainly would have picked the Broncos in this game had Bo Nix been healthy enough to play. But given the fact that he's not there, I think the quarterback edge certainly goes to Drake May and the Patriots. I don't have Drake May playing very well, but I don't think that that's going to be necessary to win.
Okay, well, I'm afraid I got some bad news for you. The Broncos are going to win 21-20. And the reason the Patriots lose is because they get a blocked kick going for their touchdown to tie at the end of the game. It's going to be beautiful because I believe the Broncos are the Chiefs reborn this year.
So you think it's going to be a blocked extra point, just to clarify?
Yep.
Gotcha.
They're going to be going to tie it with about 15 seconds left. They're going to miss the kick with a block, and it's going to be, we're going to be looking at each other, and we'll be like, well, there's where the double magic went this year for the Chiefs. They let the Broncos borrow it. So that's my prediction there. As far as X factors go for the Broncos and my side with I'm not doing any of the Patriots, I guess, technically, besides the villains. So X factor, I have it being Jared Stidham. I think he's going to play good. I think there's not a lot of film on him, and he's a very good backup quarterback. I think he's going to do just enough to get this done. And I think they're going to rely heavily on the defense. I think there will be many turnovers. I can see Drake May throwing 2 interceptions, maybe a fumble between him, Ramondre, or Travion. And it's going to just give them good field position for the Broncos, and they're going to take advantage of that. Maybe even a pick 6 and or a fumble 6, whatever it takes to get to 21 for the Broncos. Um, I just think their talent is too good. I mean, look at what they did to the Bills with the turnovers. They may only cashed in on 6 points, but I mean, they just kept the pressure coming all game, and it looks like a whole different defense compared to what we've been seeing the last couple of weeks from them. I feel like they're back to a degree. And then I'm going to still give the X factor to the Patriots. I think the X factor is going to be Drake May just not playing very good. Like, he has not looked good at all in these playoff games. He's got 6 turnovers in 2 games, only 3 behind CJ. He's very lucky that he's played very injured teams or very mediocre offenses. And I'm going to call the Chargers not a mediocre team. I just think the injuries finally caught up to them, and I think the Texans' offense is absolutely deplorable. And the defense can only do so much. And then my heroes of the game are going to be the Broncos front line. And then the hero for the Patriots, I agree to a certain degree that Sutton is going to be useless. I think Christian Gonzalez is going to absolutely eat him alive. I think this game's going to come down to RJ Harvey and Marvin Mims, both very solid players on the Broncos. And it does look like Pat Bryant will be back. So they'll have another good wide receiver. Frank Crum also looks like he'll be back. As far as questionable goes for the Broncos, you got Luke Wuttenberger, center, shoulder. He did practice in full today. Alex Forsythe, center, ankle, limited. And then, obviously, as we already said, Troy Franklin, wide receiver, hamstring, limited. And then J.L. Skinner, safety, quad, limited. And then as far as out goes, it's just going to be Bo Nix, which we already knew. Lucas Kroll, backup tight end. And then Drew Sanders, linebacker. And J.K. Dobbins is just not healthy enough to come back this week. If the Broncos do make the Super Bowl, I would bet the farm that he's playing. But yeah, I think this is going to be one of those games that it just comes down to a block kick, man. I'm going to take the Broncos 21-20. And that's what my take is going to be. I think it'll be fun. I like going out on a limb on a crazy stat. I've seen the Broncos block kicks to win games this year. I think we're going to see it one more time.
Okay, very nice.
How would you feel about that?
Personally, I'd like it. For me, I'm someone who believes that there are levels. A guy in his second year with a first year, first season that Vrabel was there. I wouldn't be a tremendous fan of that team making it to the Super Bowl and potentially winning a Super Bowl. Now I've got to pick these games with my brain, so I've got the Patriots winning because I think that they've got a major advantage in terms of the health and everything like that. But I wouldn't be mad certainly if the Patriots drop this game.
Alrighty, well, I do believe you will be first again for the next game because you have the Rams and I have the Seahawks, so I'll let you take over from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got the Rams in this one. They'll be heading to Seattle at 6:30 on Sunday. That game will be on Fox. The Rams, man, they are my Super Bowl pick. They were back in the playoff predictor, our very first episode before any games kicked off in these playoffs. So I've got to continue to roll with them. I've got them winning this one 24-21. That is a little bit lower scoring than their last couple of games. But I think that has some backing behind it with no Zach Charbonnet for the Seahawks in this one. I think that's actually going to play a pretty big role. Kenneth Walker has been able to share carries with him, particularly with Zach Charbonnet owning the short yard situations and goals and red zone snaps. So I think that that's going to put a lot more pressure on Kenneth Walker. I have Kenneth Walker not playing as well as a result of having to absorb all of that responsibility and probably snap count uh, and uh, and run share and all of that. So I have him as my villain of the game there for the Seahawks. On the opposite side, villain of the game for the Rams, I think it's going to be Kyron Williams in this one. They leaned on him very, very heavily in that Bears game, to the tune of about 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. They're only 2 touchdowns of the game. They really had, he picked up, Stafford and the rest of the offense there when, guys like Puka Nakua and Devontae Adams had very human games, which is unlike them. So I think that he's going to come back to earth a bit in this one. We also talked about off camera. Blake Corum actually had a lot less snaps and runs than he normally has had the last few weeks. So I know that you really like him this week, James, as potentially your villain of the week, despite having really good opportunity there. Um, I could see that happening. I personally think that the Rams will have a very hard time running the ball in this one. I respect that Seahawks defense, but I also have seen the Rams be able to pass on that defense a couple of times this season, and I expect that that's where they'll hurt them again, particularly because it will be like 44 in Seattle. During the time this game won't be freezing or below, and I think that will mean some really good things for the passing game. Um, Over on my X factors for the Rams, I've got Colby Parkinson um, as my X factor on the offensive side of the ball. He stepped up huge in that Bears game. He actually tied with Puka for the leading receiver on the team in that one. He also had a huge touchdown and a beautiful catch to close out that Panthers game in the first round. So he's been doing some really big things in these playoffs. I look for that to continue in this one, particularly as a red zone threat uh, to kind of space things out with Devontae Adams and Puka Nakua. When it gets down there, I expect for him to continue to roll. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I've got Jared Verse. Byron Young has been a bit banged up this week. Unspecified is currently what we're hearing about him from the Rams injury report today. He was limited in practice, but he did have a knee injury, and so I'll be shocked if he's 100%. Jared Verse, Puna Ford, those guys are going to have to step up while he's probably playing banged up. And Jared Verse was fantastic last year. He showed an ability to make plays on the defensive side of the ball quite regularly, and so I look for him to step up in particular. While Byron Young may not be fully healthy for this one, even if he does play. And then moving over to our heroes of the game, I've got Puka Nakua on the Rams side. I just think that he had a absolutely smash game in that Thursday night. I believe he had over 200 yards as well as 2 touchdowns. I don't know if he'll necessarily go quite that nuclear in this one. Devontae Adams was not playing in that game, and he will be in this one. Colby Parkinson, I also believe, was out for that game as well, or at least not as integrated into the offense as he is now. And certainly they've always got that run game. I just don't think it will be as effective against the Seahawks. So I like Puka Nakua there. Really for me, the Rams, I think that their experience really shows the most in this game. That's why I've got them prevailing. We're just talking about an organization, a set of a coaching staff, a quarterback who has done this before. They've shown that they can go on the road and win these tough games twice already in these playoffs. I feel like for the most part they are clicking. I realized that the Seahawks had a bit of a tune-up game with the 49ers last week, but this is a very, very different Rams team. This is not a team that's injured, and going to potentially roll over the second that something goes bad, like a kickoff touchdown to start the game. They're going to have much more resilience than that. They're much better coached than some of the backups potentially for the 49ers. So I look for them to really show up the Seahawks in this one, despite the Seahawks kind of have everything in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could happen. Obviously, this game takes place at 6:30 on Fox. Right, weather we said about 44 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit, uh, and I don't believe there's any weather with like rain or anything. So we're gonna have a basic field, chilly, but not too cold. But I am going with the Seahawks 28-26. Uh, and in our reality, I can see it going either way. Whoever has the ball last, kind of game. Um, and I do think that obviously Puka Nacua is going to be the X factor for the Rams. I think uh, I think another X factor for the Seahawks could be Kenneth Walker. I think he can run on them. He's showing the ability to run on them. Yeah, Zach Charbonnet might be gone, but look at what he did the first game without Zach Charbonnet, or half, whatever you want to say there. Sam Darnold and JSN didn't have to do much. They just hooked up for one reception for 19 yards for a touchdown last week. Obviously, Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to have to be a lot better in this game. So he is my other X factor for the Seahawks. And then I think that Blake Corum's going to be the other heroes of the game. I think it's going to be JSN and Blake Corum on my side. And then as far as the villains of the game, I think it's going to be Shaheed against the Rams. I think he's going to have a big game for the Seahawks. And then I also think the villain of the game is going to be Blake Corum. I think that he's going to do a lot more than Kyron in this game. I think he's going to have a higher opportunity. I think he'll get more 50-50 ball carries, and I think he'll be able to break out some big runs. I think he's better at breaking out big runs than Kyron Williams these days. I think he's slowed down just a little bit from being so leaned on the last year and a half to 2 years. So that's where I see it going there. But yeah, I think if Shaheed can come up big and get some short fields for the Seahawks in this game, I think that's going to make all the difference. Obviously, it's not going to happen on every kick return, but the Rams do have a secret weapon with their kicker. They are very good at getting it to go out of the end zone when they do kick. So any potential pickup by Shaheed can go for anywhere on the field at this point. He's already returned a kick return and a punt return in this season with just the Seahawks alone, and he already got a kick return for a touchdown with the Saints. So he's definitely an X factor there.
And just a quick update: the punt return was against the Rams in that game at Seattle on Thursday night. It was a key part of that comeback. They were down by 2 scores, and that fueled the comeback.
Yeah, they were, and so that's where I'm coming from there. I don't, we just need to see Sam Darnold lock in, don't turn the ball over, and they have a chance, obviously. And I mean, even when he does turn the ball over against the Rams, he has shown the ability to come back and win the game. Obviously, he had some help from Raheem Shaheed, but that's why he's another hero of the game for the Seahawks. But yeah, I really think it's going to be whoever has the ball last, and hopefully it's the Seahawks. Obviously, I want them to win. But from the Bills' standpoint, if they do lose, possibly get a chance to get Clint Kubiak in the building and get to interview him. So either way, I'm winning at the end of the day.
There you go.
And honestly, we both really like Matt Stafford, and we both really like Sam. If the Rams were to win, he's got a chance to get a second ring, and I'm pretty sure he's locked up the MVP at this point if you look at the betting favorites. So good for him. Just a few other things to cover here. As far as the Seahawks go, they have one player doubtful. That's Amari Knight. He's a tackle. He did not practice at all this week. Questionable is Robbie O'Toots. He's the fullback. He's got a neck injury. And then Josh Jones is also questionable. But he did practice in full today with knee and ankle injuries. But yeah, we'll see what it's like for a full game without Zach Charbonnet. Who knows? I could be completely wrong, and maybe Kenneth Walker can't do it. But I mean, there's There's got to be a reason he was a bell cow at one point in life. He's only got to do it for 2 games.
Fair enough.
So
Because this is such, I would say, the most interesting game of the week. There's a lot of people that would argue, James, that this could be the Super Bowl. This particular matchup. I just wanted to ask you a quick question because you mentioned that this game for you, just like me, is razor thin. But for me, I have to give the nod to the Rams because of that Zach Charbonnet injury. I think remember that it was a 1 point game. It was the Seahawks getting the 2 point conversion after scoring their touchdown in overtime. They had the ball second, and so they were able to go for that 2 pointer to get the win. But earlier on in that game, we've already talked about the Rashid Shaheed punt return touchdown. Yeah, you can't obviously gloss over as well the heady play by Zach Charbonnet to pick up that ball in the end zone on the 2 point conversion that was on review called a lateral, therefore a live ball. That's essentially a play that allows that to go into overtime. And that guy's not going to be on the field, let alone what he contributed for them in terms of, again, short yardage situations and goal line scenarios, red zone opportunities. I think that does make a big difference. Do you see it that way? Do you think that it's razor thin and let's say even more razor thin because of the Zach Charbonnet injury, or do you think that potentially that does shift things? Let's say if I tell you Kenneth Walker finishes this game with 100 yards and no touchdowns, do you still think the Seahawks are going to win this game?
probably not. He needs to at least score once. They're not gonna. They're very that Rams red zone defense is very hard to pass on. So no, he needs to get in there, or Sam Darnold needs to do some quarterback sneaking, or pull in AJ Bernard. I don't think that's his last Barner. AJ Barner, the tight end where that's how they do their tush push version. He's going to have to get in the end zone then. But yeah, I don't think they would win if he doesn't score at least a touchdown.
I will say one big note I would think for the Seahawks is they are going to get Elijah Arroyo back in this game. Very exciting rookie tight end. Kind of obscured by the performance of AJ Barner this season and how well that he's played. You even had Saubert stepping up for that big 2 point conversion in overtime of that Rams game that we're talking about on Thursday night. The Rams, or I'm sorry, the Seahawks, they love to run the ball. They love to use their tight ends. This is a guy with a lot of talent who hasn't been able to necessarily be on the field a ton. It'll be hard to game plan for him. If he's able to be integrated in the offense at all, that remains to be seen whether he can actually contribute a bunch, given the fact that he's a rookie, given the fact that he's coming off of being injured for so long. But I do think that that's certainly a wrinkle as well. Not one I think that I want to be betting on, but certainly something that could change the tides in a game with such a thin margin.
Yeah, I just wish that they had Troy Holton for this game.
Yeah, Torrey Holton.
Or Tony Horton.
Sorry, Torrey Horton.
Yeah, he's a good player too. I wish he was back, but I think he's done for the year no matter what. But yeah,
I
are you ready?
That's the reason why they traded for Shaheed at the deadline was that he was getting put on IR right around that time, and he basically he looks to be missing the rest of the season.
Is there anything else you want to add, or you think we're good to move on to our awards?
That's it for me. So unless you've got anything else, James, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will wrap things up with our end of season awards. Get some people some metaphorical silverware. To see them off. Some of these guys will hopefully be in the Pro Bowl game as well, so we may get to see them one more time. But we'll get into that and more when we come back in a few seconds.
All right, everybody. Are you ready, Brian?
I am ready.
Okay. Well, here we go. We have the 2005-2026 awards for the Buffalo Giants, our first in history. Obviously, we'll have this next year before the season starts and at the end of the season. So we'll cover from there. I'm super excited to get into this. I know you're super excited to get into this. So I'm going to start it off with the MVP award. I will go first, and then I will hand the floor to you. I'm not going to give super crazy long reasons either. So the MVP award, I'm giving it to Matthew Stafford. 48 touchdowns, over 4,000 passing yards alone. Led his team to a great record. Obviously, he's in the hardest division in football, and that one loss against Seattle cost them that 1 seed and obviously the 1 seed. So I'll pass the floor over to you.
I've also got Matt Stafford as my MVP. The only thing that I have to add is that you balanced those 48 touchdowns with only 6 interceptions. Just an absolutely stellar, passing quarterback season.
And obviously a much harder schedule than Drake May. All right, moving on over to the Offensive Player of the Year. I have JSN, did it all, carried the team. Obviously, the best wide receiver in the league by far, in my opinion, this season. I'll pass the floor over to you.
Yeah, I've got Puka Nacua here. I hear you on JSN finishing with a couple more yards than Puka in the end. But for me, Puka also didn't play the entire season. Got banged up at times, and I think if you put him in for 16 games, he's certainly going to outshine what JSN did. I also look at kind of like the splash performances from Puka Nacua, where those games came as well. We talked about earlier in the podcast here, a 225-yard, 2-touchdown game that came against the Rams in that Thursday night game. Made that game as entertaining as it was. So for me, I've got Puka Nacua here as the Offensive Player of the Year.
Cost a lot of us the divisional round, the second round in the playoffs too. But we'll move on over to the Defensive Player of the Year. Absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts. It's Myles Garrett, new sack record.
Yeah, this is pretty self-explanatory. I also have Myles Garrett here. Sets the NFL single season sack record. Makes a relevant team. Relevant in some games because of how good he's able to elevate. He is and is able to elevate the performance of that defense. So I think it's a pretty clear margin here.
All right, we'll move over on to most improved. I went with George Pickens. I think he had an amazing season. Don't get me wrong, he was pretty good in Pittsburgh, but didn't get the time to shine like he did in Dallas this year. A lot more eyes on him. I know he disappeared in some games, but man, he just looked like an absolute beast out there to me.
Yeah, and for me, it's going to be Javonte Williams. This is a guy who was coming off an injury-riddled season. Signed a 1-year deal with the Dallas Cowboys, and I would say well exceeded expectations. I think the Dallas Cowboys not making the playoffs is a factor, more so of Pickens kind of being hot and cold at times this season, particularly late, and CeeDee Lamb's various injuries, particularly the high ankle sprain that he sustained. Dak Prescott was certainly not the reason that I would say that they struggled. It was mostly the guys around Dak and Javonte. But Javonte, I think, again, well exceeded expectations. Certainly I think most people thought that Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue, Malik Davis were going to give Javonte potentially a run for his money, especially if he went through a cold stretch, and that really never came.
Nope, not really. And then we have Comeback Player of the Year. I mean, this one is also self-explanatory. Christian McCaffrey only played 4 games last year. This year he had over 2,000 scrimmage yards, 101 receptions, countless touchdowns. Just an amazing season.
Yeah, I also have Christian McCaffrey here. I think this one is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, we're talking about one of the best players in the league that was limited to just a handful of games last season due to an ankle and heel type of a deal that he sustained basically at the end of preseason. So looked like his normal self this year. A big reason why the 49ers won as many games as they did and were able to get to where they did in the playoffs, despite the fact that George Kittle was not present for a lot of it. And Brock Purdy also missed a significant amount of games with a turf toe injury. There's a reason why they were able to still win when Mac Jones was in there. Christian McCaffrey, a big part of that.
Absolutely. And then we're going to move on to best running back. I went with Jahmyr Gibbs, one of the few bright spots on the offense this year, besides Amon Ra and Jameson Williams. He was Mr. Do-It-All, running back, catching and running the ball. He just did it all, David Montgomery took a backseat to him this season, and we saw what a true number one running back Jahmyr Gibbs looks like.
Yeah, for me, I've got Bijan Robinson as the best running back of the year. For me, it comes down to the fact that he single-handedly and quietly, forced his Falcons team to end up finishing with tied for the record, the best record in the NFC South. They did that despite Michael Penix, getting hurt and missing the rest of the year with a knee injury. Drake London missing a handful of games throughout the year, particularly late on in the year, at a time where the Falcons actually went on a bit of a hot streak. And so I've got Bijan Robinson here. There's nothing that you can ask for in a running back that Bijan Robinson does not give you. In particular, his jump cuts, probably the best in the league now at this point. So I've got Bijan Robinson here.
All right, and then we got the best wideout of the year. I went with JSN. Already gave my reasons why. I'll pass the floor over to you.
Yeah, I went with Jackson Smith and Jigba here. I gave Puka Nacua the Offensive Player of the Year. And I think it's only just that because I went Puka there, I've got to go Jackson Smith and Jigba here. He does finish with the receiving yardage total record on the year. I think that the guy who finishes with that title should probably always be the pick here.
All right, we'll move on over to Coach of the Year. I went with Ben Johnson. He took a 6-11 team to 12-5. Gave Caleb Williams an amazing season, and that whole entire offense an amazing season. Just imagine if they can get that defense shored up a little bit more. They won't have to be cardiac kids all the time. Just an amazing year for him.
Yeah, I like that shout. I went with Mike Macdonald here. I don't think there's a coach who has a better, more to show for what they did this season than Mike Macdonald. Turned the Seahawks around in basically a year. They look like one of the best defenses in the league, extremely young at the same time. And a lot of that is due to Mike Macdonald, both in terms of who they brought in drafting-wise, but also his schemes and everything like that. He's been building this track record of being very good on the defensive side of the ball for quite a few years and quite a number of stops. And he makes that work in the NFL basically immediately in one of the toughest divisions in football. I would say the toughest division when you look at everything as a whole this year. So, not only winning that division, but getting the number one seed in the NFC at the same time. For me, it's Mike Macdonald by a pretty healthy margin.
For sure. Then we got tight end of the year. This one's self-explanatory. Trey McBride, he set a new record for catches by a tight end in a season. Was the tight end went on the season, and on top of that, he was the only reliable pass catcher for the entire season. Obviously, Michael Wilson came in halfway through the season and started performing better with Jacoby Brissett, but that is Trey McBride's team.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've got Trey McBride in the spot. My heart hurts a little bit here because I certainly think Tucker Kraft could have gotten this if he was able to stay healthy all season. I certainly think if Harold Fannin got drafted by a better team, that he could have been in this spot as well. But given everything that I just said, it's got to be Trey McBride.
Yep, and Tucker Kraft was our honorable mention. We didn't do that for every position, but we both believe that he would have been there if he stayed healthy the entire season. Moving on to kicker of the year, we have Nick. I have Nick Folk, just the most accurate and the most reliable.
Yeah, I've also got Nick Folk here. I believe he only missed one field goal all season. Most accurate kicker in the league this year. Kind of a balance shift in the league. Cameron Dicker not nearly as good this season as he's been in past seasons. Same story with Brandon Aubrey over in Dallas as well. So Nick Folk, gets the benefit from that and slides in as the kicker of the year.
Yeah, and then we'll move on over to coordinator of the year. I went with Clint Kubiak, what he did with Sam Darnold, JSN, K9, uh, the the litter of tight ends, and Zach Charbonnet, Rashid Shaheed, and Tony Horton. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, for me, it's Robert Saleh, defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. He came in and somehow managed to navigate a ship without Fred Warner for much of the season, and was able to be within a couple of wins of the one seed in the NFC. Obviously ends up finishing third in that division, but that division, has the best teams in the NFL aside from the Arizona Cardinals,
Yeah,
right? So I've got to give it to Robert Saleh. He basically was able to make the best of kind of befuddled bunch. Guys like D. Winters having breakout season under him and stuff like that. So I got to give it to Robert Saleh there. The evidence also is there with him already having gotten a head coaching job.
absolutely. And then we will move on over to fantasy breakout of the year. I went with Javonte Williams from the Dallas Cowboys. He had a decent rookie year, but nothing like this. Just came out of nowhere. He helped us secure a spot in the Vampire League as the Vampire in the playoffs. Unfortunately, we didn't get the job done. Just ran into Kyle Pitts, and it was over. But yeah, Javonte Williams, excellent ball player and a very good player to help you survive the fantasy season.
Yeah, my pick here is Harold Fannin. I kind of foreshadowed this when we were talking about tight end of the year. I don't think you could ask for a guy in his rookie season to do more at the tight end position on a terrible team than what Harold Fannin did this year. Frankly, he was more valuable than the quarterback of the team that he played for and everyone else. I would even potentially say combined. Quinshon Judkins started to fade mid-season. And Harold Fannin never really did. The only thing that bit Harold Fannin was injury, not necessarily a lack of production or ability or sort of recency, in terms of getting drafted this year and not having necessarily the familiarity with the system or whatnot. So Harold Fannin for me, breakout this year and certainly a guy that I'm very excited about for years to come.
Absolutely. And then offense and defensive rookie of the year we agreed on as well. We had Ted McMillan and we had Carson Schwischinger from the
Schlesinger,
Browns,
yes.
and and then obviously from the Carolina Panthers. We're not even going to split hairs on that one. We 100% agreed on that as well. We just didn't write it down on our list at the time of recording, so we'll throw that in there real quick. But that is your 25-26 season Buffalo Giants awards. But obviously, we'll have one right before the season starts where we give our predictions.
Yeah, great inaugural set of awards there, James. Really like some of your picks, and hopefully looking forward to seeing some of those guys in the Pro Bowl. If that's something that you're interested in, not everyone is big fans of flag football and watching some of these guys not playing pads and stuff like that. But if you're looking for a spectacle, it might be up your alley.
All right. We're going to go over some coaching hires and coaching interviews that have happened in the last couple of days. But we are going to start with the Ravens hiring their new head coach.
Yeah, so the Ravens hired Jesse Minter, former defensive coordinator, for the Los Angeles Chargers. Um, Not any previous head coaching experience. That remains to be seen whether or not he'll hit the ground running and truly work out there. But he is a master of the defensive side of the ball. That should fit very well with that Ravens team. And hopefully, we'll see what they do with offensive coordinator. We'll see what Jesse Minter can evolve into coaching that side of the ball. But in terms of a good fit, in terms of solidifying the culture that they've established in that defense for the last couple of decades, I think that this is right in line. And then in addition to that, another significant hire, Mike McDaniel, former Miami Dolphins head coach. He got hired by the Los Angeles Chargers as their offensive coordinator. So look for guys like Omara and Hampton to have probably a big step forward next year. You're talking about a guy who was able to scheme up and blossom Devon Achane into what we know him to be today. It's probably a good bet that you watch Omari and Hampton trend in that direction.
Absolutely. The only bad news that could happen for them is that the Buffalo Bills have interviewed Mike McDaniel for their head coaching position today. They also interviewed Phillip Rivers. We also interviewed Anthony Lynn. Actually, that's not true. We interview him tomorrow. We interviewed Brian Dable and Joe Brady yesterday. And then today we did Phil Rivers and Mike McDaniels, obviously. And then I do believe we have one more scheduled for this weekend period. We were going to talk to the Jags offensive coordinator. I can't pronounce his name, but that is who it is, Ulinski. I could be butchering that, but he obviously had a very good season with Trevor Lawrence this year. So I actually wouldn't mind that one. Obviously, you know how I feel about Brian Dable. I'd be okay with that. I'm just trying to avoid Joe Brady at all costs. And, thinking about it more over the last day and a half, Mike McDaniel would probably be a lot of fun because he really did have a great offense with Tua at one point. Obviously, the concussions, injuries, and just overall the team falling apart as the years went on. And it's not like the players here are going to be afraid of the cold all of a sudden. So I think it could work with him. So it'll be interesting to see. But I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I just had one question in response to that. And that is, do you think any front office personnel from the Buffalo Bills may be having lunch in Seattle sometime early next week?
I can only hope, man. I can only hope. But at the same time, I really want the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl. So it's like, but for the betterment of my
just to spell it out for anyone who may not be up on things, Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks, as we mentioned a little bit earlier in this episode, is someone that is high in demand. But the Seahawks are currently telling everyone no, basically, which is their right, so long as they are still playing this season. So, kind of referring to there, if the Rams are able to take them down and the Seahawks season ends, it may be that they add one or two more interviews on. Potentially you might have Broncos or Patriots personnel becoming available too. I certainly think that if any of the Broncos personnel were available, that is something that the Bills should be listening to as well. Guys like Vance Joseph, for example. If you were going to consider going defensive, I realize that you're coming off McDermott and kind of probably wanting to turn the page there. But that's a guy who probably has the pedigree, the experience that you would be looking for. So,
if I was going anywhere defensively, it would be wanting Brian Flores. Personally, I think he's the best defensive head coach defensive coordinator in the league right now.
Well, I know that former head coach too with the Dolphins.
Yeah. But also one other person that has interviewed was Anthony Lynn with the Bills as of a couple days ago. So he did interview. I think that's more of a, not trying to say this in a rude way, but obviously listening to the Rooney Rule, I don't think there's any real interest there. He didn't even get a second interview yet. No update on that. So Nothing against him. He's a former actual Bills head coach. Technically, he was our interim head coach a couple years back when they fired Rex Ryan, I believe, a couple games before the end of the season. He did get 2 interviews before they went with McDermott. So yeah, there's that. Dream scenario, and I know this is crazy talk. Obviously, I would love to hire Clint Kubiak, have Brian Dable sit as the offensive coordinator, and then they could bring in whoever they want for defense at that point, or stay with Bobby Babbage. I'm not too worried about it. But dream scenario would be Clint Kubiak and Brian Dable working together with Josh Allen and the rest of the team, and just seeing what we can do from there. The other guy that I'm really cool with is doing this Udinsky guy. I think that would be a lot of fun. Just looking and seeing what he did with Trevor Lawrence. Could you imagine him with Josh Allen? Whew. And he would probably want to bring in some wide receivers. And knowing him, he'd make the Brian Thomas deal happen.
Yeah, I for me, I think a lot more of that is Liam Cohen than people might want to admit. You look at what he was doing in Tampa Bay the season before, and then what he brings to Jacksonville and where they ultimately get to in that first season. But I hear you on that. You definitely need to try and find someone who's going to try and promote the offensive side of the ball and getting more talent, particularly across your receiving options. I did just want to add on to what you were saying, just give a few minutes of Giants news here. Obviously, John Harbaugh, now the coach of the New York Giants, has had his first press conference and everything like that. There's already started to be some major changes in the Giants organization after him having been hired. First things first, they changed the entire reporting structure of the head coaching position when ushering in John Harbaugh. Essentially, John Harbaugh and the head coach previously would have been reporting to the GM. And John Harbaugh comes in and basically says, no, we're not going to be doing that. I'm going to be reporting directly to the Mara and Tisch families, not to the Joe Sheen, the GM. So that was a big one. As well, we've had some changes in terms of, for example, our head, athletic trainer. He's going to now be kind of in a consultant role, and we'll have someone else fill into that. It's a guy who has been with the team since the '60s, so you definitely want to keep him around. He was actually his best well-known act, I would say, was taking care of Mara's dad when Mara's dad was sick in the hospital a whole generation ago. So needless to say, it's good to see that guy get elevated to somewhere where he can still be a part of the organization and a fixture, but maybe not necessarily pulling as many strings. So that's good to see as well. Another thing is that we had an assistant GM for the last 30 years, and John Harbaugh has sunset him as well. So there's been some major changes within the organization already within just this first week. We've already started to hear about some targets. We've already signed a guy, a former Texas A&M defensive tackle, a third-round pick in 2022 draft, to a futures contract to try and compete for next year's team. So things are already in motion with the Giants. There's already a lot of things to be excited about, and we expect that to continue to snowball as we hear more about free agents and things like that coming available in the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's really awesome to hear. I do have a question about this assistant GM. You've had the same one for 30 years?
Yeah, so the assistant GM has been with the organization through basically the entire Super Bowl era. I guess we'll call it. From what I understand, he gets there right after LT retires. So we're talking after those first 2 Super Bowls. But he was in place during the Tom Coughlin hiring. Was obviously in place when they make the Super Bowl and lose to the Ravens, with Collins as the quarterback and Tiki Barber as the running back. At that point in time, the coach's name is, I want to say it was Jim Fossil, but I could be getting that wrong.
Oh, the 2000 Super Bowl?
Correct. The one where Ray Lewis and the Ravens defense just absolutely destroy us. Yes, that one. Uh, but uh, but yeah, no. In all seriousness, he's been with the team for 30 years. Um, he obviously in those first 10 years had a lot of success, making 3 Super Bowls and winning two. But it's been a pretty big drought since. And it looks like some of the elements of the losing culture and history of the last decade and a half for the Giants is starting to be expelled with this move, and that's the type of positive momentum as a Giants fan that I've been looking for quite a while. And now that we have someone who seems to know what they're doing, is finally starting to happen.
Well, it's nice to hear you a little bit more positive about the Giants.
I got something to talk
Obviously,
about, baby.
yeah, obviously, when we first met, it was more like, "Ugh."
Yeah,
now we're like, kind of smiling finally.
we were circling the drain at that point in time. Just a lot of things happening, not a lot of them
Ironically,
good.
circling the train.
Yeah,
Another sync related humor from you. Thank
yeah.
you. I appreciate it.
You are so welcome. That I don't think there's a better way to describe where the Giants were as an organization at the time that we started this podcast. But
Yeah.
my oh my, what a difference a couple of weeks makes. You couldn't have asked for a better window to have a head coaching vacancy, particularly at the end of the regular season. Given when some of these firings happen, in some ways the Bills I think almost get slighted because of the fact that they win that first playoff game and aren't necessarily on the table with a vacancy at the end of the regular season and getting their pick of the litter of those head coaches that become available. So, but the Giants they get to benefit from that. Um, you know, if you listen to John Harbaugh and what he says, there's the Giants organization has always said Giants pride, right? That's something that we as Giants fans say, and it's been hard
Mhm.
to say that with chest over the last, I would say, certainly 8 years. But I don't know how many of us were truly confident in that Odell Beckham team after that boat photo and what we thought that they may or may not do, right? So, this is probably the first time since Eli Manning and taking down the undefeated Patriots that I feel truly in a position where I've got stuff to be excited about and not just individual players, playmaking ability here and there on certain types of plays within a game. No, I think we're actually, it's very realistic that we instantly go to having the best coach in the league. And if he can coach the team well enough, I think there's certainly an argument that we may end up with the best quarterback as well as coach. When I say league, I mean division. I mean the NFC East, right? Um, I think that there's certainly a path in which both of those things could be true. That John Harbaugh ends up being the best coach in the division by the end of this year, and that Jackson Dart could progress to be the best quarterback and play the best this season of all the quarterbacks in the division.
Coach, not a hard thing to do at this point. I think Sirianni's a bum. Uh, what is that? Schottmeyer over there
Schottenheimer.
in Dallas.
Yep.
He's he's okay. And then Dan Quinn, we respect and like him, but he's a defensive guy. And then you got a brilliant mind in Harbaugh. I just hope that you guys can fix your blowing lead problem because he's already kind of one of the worst coaches at that. But then again, it could just be the players. We shall see. But that's the only thing I really worry about, and just the development of Jackson Dart, and hopefully he can keep his head on, and maybe Cam Skadaboo can slow down a little bit and not get himself killed.
It's twofold, right, James? Part and parcel to giving up those big leads in the fourth quarter is an inability to run the ball and inability to want to commit to the run. And that really plagued us at times this season, particularly in those games like the Denver game on the road where we're up, I believe it
Yeah,
was
and you really couldn't
24
run the
points in
ball.
the fourth quarter. Like, you know, part of it is also coaching, right? Like part of it is also taking the right approach doing what makes the most sense, gives you the best chance to win throughout every play of the game. And not feeling inexperienced and things that get you out of that shell. That's where I feel very, very confident in John Harbaugh. Like I obviously have watched those Ravens teams. I've watched Lamar Jackson be a two-time MVP but not have the playoff success to kind of reflect that ability. And that's certainly something that the jury still remains to be out on. I think that the only thing I can do as a Giants fan is give John Harbaugh time to show us what he can do in trying to change that narrative and that trend. But you have to realize that as a Giants fan, I'm looking at it in comparison from all that we've gone through over the past 15 years, and I don't think that there's any question that this is the best situation that we have found ourselves in over that period, and you know certainly no reason to believe, especially given how talented the team is on both sides of the ball at the moment. That with some better coaching, that they could be potentially a playoff team as soon as next year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you guys could be there. We shall obviously see. I think your only real competition, actually, I think your whole division is going to be pretty competitive next year. It's going to be a slaughter. It'll be interesting to see.
But we get the benefit, I believe, of being the best coached team, and when the margins are that thin, that certainly matters.
Yeah, it's really between you and, in my opinion, Dan Quinn. I don't think that Nick Sirianni is a very good coach. I think he's been a coordinator merchant when they are good, and then magically all the blame goes to the coordinators when they're not good. And it's like the one thing when they're not good is that Sirianni's there. You lose. Oh Jesus. Kellen Moore, the offense falls apart. You lose. Well, their defense has been pretty consistent since
Vic Fangio.
Vic Fangio got there, so I'm not going to talk crap about that. But that offense has obviously sputtered back out again since they lost.
Don't gloss over the whole issue with AJ Brown in the playoff game.
Yeah,
too.
that too.
That
Yeah,
could potentially introduce some trade conversation surrounding AJ Brown. I could introduce some suspicion amongst the locker room about whether he is the right person to be leading that team. If I'm Saquon Barkley, if I'm Devontae Smith, if I'm Jalen Hurts, I can't be thrilled watching a guy make a mistake, be human, and for his coach to publicly go over to him on the sideline and start shouting at him, right? Not every player responds to that. And not every player, thinks of that as a positive kick in the butt, right? If that can force some guys the other way. And it may have done that with AJ Brown in that particular playoff game. He went on to do only more of the same, and kind of was a big reason why they crashed out against the 49ers after the 49ers lose George Kittle, right? So
yeah, and something I want to cover on Sirianni, he's an absolute dickhead. There's no ifs, ands, or about it. The way that he talked shit when he beat the Bills and they put up -2 yards for the third and fourth quarter combined, he's like, "Oh, where's that top team now?" It's like, dude, time and place. Your team literally would have lost if it wasn't for a missed extra point by our kicker, who was an absolute dumbass at that point and badly. It wasn't even Prater. And like for him to act all high and mighty, like you won 13-14 or whatever the score was. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, it's just he's honestly pathetic. I can't believe he won a Super Bowl. Like he is probably the most annoying coach in the league. And then Shoddy, I like Shoddy, but Shoddy, I don't think he's going to be Super Bowl caliber head coach, to be honest. I think he's going to be a better coordinator than head coach. And then, like I said, we respect Dan Quinn, but he can only go as far as his defense takes him. And depending on what Jaden Daniels even is after this season, obviously he had a rough second year with injuries. So we'll see. If I had a pick, I'm picking between the Commanders and the Giants for 1-2 in that division. I think the Eagles could fall even farther down the totem pole, and the Cowboys are kind of just the Cowboys. They're going to go 8-8 and try to sneak in.
We'll have to see what they do with their defense. Conceivably they could be a bit better next season if CeeDee Lamb is able to stay healthy and they keep George Pickens and Javonte Williams. But all of that remains to be seen, right? Like Pickens is a free agent, Javonte Williams is a free agent. CeeDee Lamb has had some drops in addition to injuries the last couple of seasons, and so all of that has to be taken in consideration, right? So, I again really rosy picture right now if you're a Giants fan. Lot to be excited about. But James, I think we've talked about the Bills and Giants enough on the back end of this show.
I got
You have
one.
one more
I got
thing
one
before we
thing.
head out? Yeah.
You are pick 6, I believe.
I would need to double check. I want to say we're actually 7.
Okay. You still think wide receiver at 7?
It's going to be tough. I think Carnell Tate will get taken off the board safely before then. And I think if we're talking about best player available, that's not going to be a wide receiver at that spot in the draft. But for me, unless it's a stud offensive lineman, I'd still probably be drafting. The guy out of Arizona State this season. I think that putting him on the opposite side of Neighbors and having Scatterboo and Tracy at running back with Singletary there to be kind of the emergency guy or the guy to maybe even be the short yardage situation and when Scatterboo needs to blow. I think that could very well work. The real big needs for the Giants are probably one or two pieces in the secondary, particularly at cornerback. The offensive line, Illuminor, who had a great season for us and was a big reason why we were top 10, I believe top 5 even in rushing. He's a free agent this year, so we need to re-sign him. We have a couple of interior spots that could probably be upgraded in either this draft, free agency, or coming years. And then we've got Andrew Thomas on the other side, who's been an absolute stud for as long as he's been on the team. And every game that he's healthy, he makes a noticeable difference. So it's really just those two plus the wide receiver room. We could use a true number 2 to take some of the pressure off of Neighbors. I think Theo Johnson has looked great in his rookie season. I think can continue to provide that. We also had another rookie, Fantone, who got hurt, and we didn't see any of him this year. But I believe that he'll play a pretty big role as a blocking tight end as well in the coming years.
All right. Well, with that being said, thank you for answering the question, Brian. We'll wrap up this show. Obviously, please comment, like, subscribe, do all that, turn on the bell. We appreciate every comment, like, and subscribe as well. And, we would like for you guys to start putting stuff in the comments. If there's something you'd like to see us cover or talk about and or an idea for a keep for, cut for, etc., just let us know and drop in. And even if you want a quarterback ranked for the pyramid, drop them in there. Obviously, make sure you know that we haven't already done them. If you ask for a quarterback that's already been done, unfortunately, we will have to skip over that until next season. But we will go from there. For my closing statement, do good, be good, go Bills. Go ahead, Brian.
Giants pride. We hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday night, and we hope that you are able to watch some football on Sunday this week. Weather dependent, and if you are able to watch some football, enjoy it. They should be a couple of great games.
Everyone stay safe and stay warm. Good night.